It's FashLife Updates. In today's episode, we will be breaking down the recent Victoria's Secret fashion show and how it was a complete and utter failure. Now here's your host, Pelli. Hey everyone, it's Pelli. Welcome to FashLife Update, the series keeping you updated on everything fashion. For today's episode, we're going to be breaking down the recent Victoria's Secret fashion show. We'll take a look at some good things about the show and we'll discuss a lot of the bad things about the show. I'll break the whole thing down and at the very end, I'll give you my overall thoughts and opinion about the show and the brand. But before we begin, what is Tour 23? Well, according to the documentary, back in 2021, Victoria's Secret began a journey to give a new generation of creatives from all around the world the opportunity to bring their creation to life using the Victoria's Secret platform. The documentary explores 4 cities, including a fashion designer and musician, to reimagine what a Victoria's Secret runway looks like. The setting of the documentary is of a building in Barcelona that's surrounded by nature, and the architecture of the building, which includes a lot of arches, are used as portals to travel to different cities. So there you have it.
Welcome to the tour.
Before I even begin the breakdown, I want to make one thing very clear, and that's the creatives and the models involved in this project are very, very, very talented. There are a lot of amazing models, and they feature a wide range of models as well, which is an accomplishment for Victoria's Secret. So any criticism and negative comments that I will have has nothing to do with them. It's just unfortunate that they were cast and included in this flop or product or project, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to call it a flop because it is that. It's a complete flop. With that being said, let's get into the breakdown. I actually have directors and creative team for the first topic for the breakdown, but I actually just want to talk about the creative director, Raul Martinez. So in the credits, the person who got credited for the original concept is Raul Martinez. And I went on a little search and turns out he's the chief creative director for Victoria's Secrets. So he was the one who came up with this idea. So when people are doing the blame and doing the, pointing the finger, he's the one that we need to point the finger at. And he's the one that needs to step down or get fired from that position so we can see a better Victoria's Secret. Because of his original idea, because of his original concept, he came up with this whole concept. He's credited for this. Everybody else, they have to follow what he says, I guess, to a certain extent. But he's the one who came up with this idea. So just know his name. His name is Raul Martinez. He's the chief creative director for Victoria's Secret. So he's the one making the decision. And he's the one that came up with this concept. So if we want to point the finger, if we want to blame anyone for this flop, it's him. So, but let's begin the breakdown. The first thing that I want to talk about is the narrator. From the very first scene of the documentary, Gigi Hadid, the narrator, mocked the old style of the fashion show by imitating a backstage person. This happens in like the first minute. She's mocking like a backstage microphone guy.
The voice, that backstage voice, why do they all sound like that?
And I think they really did this on purpose to disconnect us from what we are used to. They want to disconnect the old fashion show. It's their way of telling us this is not, the old Victoria's Secret fashion show. This is different. Gigi, as a narrator, she tried hard to be funny, fun, and relatable. She tried, but none of that came through, and instead she came off as annoying, and that's actually coming from a Gigi Hadid fan.
I'm sleeping on the job. Just kidding. I'm the new Vogue. Hey, that's all I got.
Like, the jokes that were written out for her were just awful. They were just cringy, you know? You'll have a serious documentary portion, and then here she comes.
Arches do have sick curves.
You'll have a great performance, an artsy section, an artsy show or performance, and then here she come being cringy. Here she come with a joke, and it just feels so out of place. And now this is a criticism for the product, for the Victoria's Secret Tour 23. This is not a criticism over Gigi Hadid, because I know she can host, and I know she can be funny, and I know she can be charismatic. It's the line that's written out for her. It's the way everything. It's the whole creative idea to have a narrator be like her. You know, that dry humor, that Gen Z type of humor, it just didn't work. It just didn't work. And again, that's not a criticism to Gigi. You know, she was miscast. She was miscast, and while she tried, it just didn't work. So that was strike one already, when you are cringing at the narrator. And again, I love Gigi Hadid. I love her voice. It's so distinct. It's so different. But she was just miscast. She was just miscast. So let's move on to our next topic or talking points, which is diversity. If the documentary succeeded in any way, in any aspect, it's in representing diversity, which was the whole point. So, you know, kudos to them for that. It did a great job in representing different culture, people, and the artists as well. The whole project, actually, it's about representing different culture. It's about giving a platform to different people with different voices and different backgrounds. And when you look at the show through that aspect, it accomplishes that. It's a great product. It's a great product. Now, was it boring? Yes. But it did a great job with representation. So one can argue that they are finally righting their wrong after all of their controversies. But one can also argue that they are only doing this to restore their damaged reputation. More on that later. But let's move on. Let's talk about collections. So, while the majority of the collections were perfectly thought out and crafted, a lot of the time while I'm watching it, what I'm thinking is, what does this have to do with Victoria's Secret? Where are the Victoria's Secret elements? You know, we got the Legos collection by Boo Boo and the Colombian collection by Melissa, and they were two of my favorite collection from the documentary. But again, what do they have to do with Victoria's Secrets besides having the Victoria's Secret models, besides having what sheer clothing, besides being in this Victoria's Secret documentary? What does it have to do with Victoria's Secrets? Because they accomplished in creating a collection that was not only entertaining but also great to look at, that celebrated their heritage, that celebrated their artistry, right? That showcased the artistry. But I did not see Victoria's Secret in any of it. But after those two designers, we got the Victoria's Secret collection. And this happened like abruptly after a Colombian artist performance. Like right after it, bam, the Victoria's Secret collection. So the Victoria's Secret collection saw models stand under a spotlight dramatically, and then they strut into the abyss, which was actually fun. And you know, I was like, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute, we might be getting something. And then the music stops. And then you hear sound of rain and thunder, and then here comes Naomi Campbell, and like she's coming out to like a great beat, and then she's serving, and bam, it ended. It ended when it was just getting good. And then you had Gigi Hadid on like the narrator. You had her say something like, you know, we had to bring the old show back. We had to bring a little bit of the old Victoria's Secret back. You guys couldn't do this for the whole thing. But anyway, then they went to London. We got to see the London and Tokyo collection, which were not my favorites. They were just not my favorites. Okay, after the Lagos and Colombian portion of the documentary, it just became so boring. It became so uninteresting, and some parts were just weird. Like some parts were just downright weird. But I did like the model's performance for the London collection. I thought that was like beautifully done. But the Tokyo collection, I did not like any of that. I not only not like the collection, I I just don't understand how. Anyway, and the styling for that collection was just awful. I cannot believe that that was what they ended with. Like, I just can't believe that's what they ended with. But they had this moment. They had this moment while everybody was running. They had like it was like a slow motion moment, and then you saw models. Like you saw like some of the models strut instead of running. Like you saw some of the model walks, and like these ladies, they know how to walk. They know how to strut. Why did you make them run? Why did you make them glide? Why did you make them do all of this stuff? Why couldn't you just put them on a runway? So, majority of the collection had, this type of runways that was more of a performance. So, a lot of the runways were just performances. They were giving me showroom performances. Okay, if you are familiar with showroom, you know what I mean. Whoever was directing it was just doing way too much. Way too much. Just put these ladies on a runway and just let them walk because they know how to do that. Oh, yeah. Then there's the music. Who picked the music? Who picked the music? Like, now I love Kali Uchis, and they actually play like two of my favorite songs from her, but none of them fit the collection. None of them made sense. When they played Muñequita during the Legos collection, it just felt so out of place. Like, this is a great collection, but the music, like, it was who picked the music for this? Because the music are supposed to elevate a collection, and I'm sorry, while I love the Muñequita song, it made no sense. It made no sense. And then they played Kali Uchis again for the Colombian collection. And let me tell you, the song actually started to irritate me because it felt like it went on forever. I love Kali Uchis, and I actually I really really like that song. But like while listening to it, while watching the collection, it went on forever. It dragged on. It dragged on, and it felt like torture. And then during the Victoria's Secret collection section, they played a version of the Jackson Five, "Who's Loving You," which I liked. Which I liked. But then, they played a song called "Heads Will Roll." I think I heard that song from like Sing 2, that kid movie, but they played a remix version of it. And why? This was like a weird song, a weird remix that was doing too much. Just ding ding. There was so much going on in that song. Why? 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 You had this moment, right? This moment with the Jackson 5 song that was slow, sensual. And then all of a sudden you had the ding ding. It just made no sense. Like it just made no sense whatsoever. But the song that they played when Naomi Campbell came out, a song called "That Girl" by Brie Runway. Now that's a runway music. That was a good moment. That was a good song selection. It was good, but way too short. Way too short. So even down to the like music choices, they messed that up too. They even mess up the music. Anyway, oh, speaking of music, let's talk about Doja Cat. So she was the headliner. Okay, that's what the brand was saying. Like she was the headliner for the Victoria's Secret Tour 23. So typically when you hear that someone will headline something, you think they're gonna be showing up a lot. Or like they're gonna be the main musical performance, main musical musician, main musical artist, entertainment for the whole thing. But this is not what happened. Doja Cat was extremely unnecessary. She was out of place. Her portions felt like they if you ever seen Doja Cat's like Vivo session, that's what it was. Like it felt like they took one of her Vivo session and then just like edited it in the documentary. It was so unnecessary. It was so unnecessary, and that's coming from a Doja Cat fan. I liked her song, but again, unnecessary. And it also did not feel like a Victoria's Secret and Doja Cat collab. Like it didn't feel that way. It was just a regular Doja Cat performance. It was nothing special. Anyway, she actually had some sort of drama with the brand during New York Fashion Week. She wanted a slip dress, and they gave her a dress that just kept falling off. And she was mad about that. She went on Instagram to vent. So that whole collaboration just did not work out well at all. So yeah, there's that. And the angels. Well, I'm just gonna models, angels, whatever you want to call them. Everybody's the angels these days. Okay, we're in a everybody's an angel era. But when it comes to models, I think the documentary showcased a lot of great people. You had a lot of different people, and there was a lot of diversity. There was a lot of diversity. That's one thing you cannot take away from this documentary. If you want to criticize them for anything, diversity and inclusion, you cannot criticize them for that. And it was good to see different models, and it was good to see like these models that I recognize from the magazine and stuff. Like, oh, there's Paloma, oh, there's Gigi. Like, that was great. That was great to do. So the castings on the models, that's one of the great aspects of the documentary. They showcase a lot of diversity, a lot of inclusion. So kudos to them. They got that part right. And then there's the ending. It was pretty much them just giving up. They just threw something together and said, "Ta-da! It's over." They had Lila Moss, which is Kate Moss' daughter, like run. It was one of the final. It was a Tokyo collection. She ran in this wedding dress, and then they had some like a blooper reel of some sort. Like I think they tried to connect all four cities together and like all the artists together by clipping bloopers together. I don't know. But it did not work. It did not work. I was like, oh, it ended? But not in the sense of like, oh, I want to see more. I'm like, oh, that's the ending? Oh. Yeah, so it didn't work, and then they had a Doja Cat performance with a car hanging from the ceiling. Yeah, they had a car hanging from the ceiling while Doja Cat performed, and then it was over. Yeah, it was. That was the ending. That was the ending. You know what? I'm done with this. Let's end this with my overall thoughts. Okay, let's end this with my overall thoughts. So, one argument that I saw from a few different people is that this was reverse psychology. That they made this Victoria's Secret show bad so they could quote unquote go back to the old ways. And I cannot disagree more. Like, okay, mass media 101, there is no they, there is no them, there is only us. And when I say us, I don't mean you and me personally. I mean society. I mean the population. I mean the culture. Who got Victoria's Secret canceled in the first place? Us. Who did Victoria's Secret receive backlash from? Us. Why are they all about diversity and inclusion? Us. We're the main reason for this new creative project, but unfortunately, the creative director was just out of touch. Just because you see a popular ideology, just because you see a popular tweet, whatever, does not mean that's how a lot of people think. They did this because of us and for two main reasons: money and reputation. They want to see profit, they want to see a rise in revenue, and they want to restore their reputation. And who has the power of the revenue and reputation? Us. So instead of arguing that the reason the documentary was so bad is because they want to go back to the old ways, instead criticize the creative team, criticize the creative director who came up with the whole idea. They made this project because they thought this is what people wanted. They thought this was what was gonna save and help their brand overall. And based on reviews and reaction, that didn't happen. And who decides that? Us. So the arguments that they did this on purpose is just absurd. And first and foremost, it completely disregards the talents and artists involved in the documentary, because if any aspect was executed effectively, it was them representing different type of people and culture. And then also you gotta think, why would a brand who's already losing money, who's already losing reputation with the public, do something that's gonna make them lose more money and ruin more of their reputation. You have to think about that. So the argument that they did this on purpose, they made the documentary bad on purpose so they can quote unquote go back to the old ways, is absurd, is just incorrect, and it's just like it's dumb. It's just dumb. Because the real issue is the brand not having a creative director that understands the brand. Raul Martinez is a man. Victoria's Secret is aiming at women. So that's something there already. The real issue is not the designer, models, artists that were involved in the documentary, but the people who put it together and those who thought that it was a good idea. Some people also think the pushback is due to diversity, is due to Victoria's Secret showcasing a range of people, including plus size, indigenous, and disabled models, when in actuality, a lot of people want to see that diversity, but on the iconic, glamorous Victoria's Secret runway we used to have back in the day. You know, the argument is that it doesn't matter what color, what size, whatever you are, you deserve to be on that stage. So the argument that people are hating on this because of diversity is just false. It's just false. And frankly, it might be what Victoria's Secret hoped for. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody from the Victoria's Secret team came out with this argument. But I will be there. I will be there shutting it down. But overall, this is not Victoria's Secret, and to be fair, it's not even called that, and it doesn't even try to be. But whatever it is, whatever it wants to be, one thing for sure, and that's it completely flopped. Majority of the reviews are negative, and I think it all came down to one thing, and that's it was just so boring. See, that's the thing. That's the thing, right? You can have diversity, you can have amazing models, you can have amazing performances, you can have all the budget you want. But when your whole show is boring, nobody's gonna watch it, nobody's gonna like it, nobody's gonna be entertained. Yeah, at the end of the day, it was just so boring. That's why people aren't feeling it. You can have all the good models, budget, talented people, popular singers, whatever, but if it's boring, no one's gonna be entertained. No one. And that's where I'm gonna end it. Overall, the Victoria's Secret Tour 23 was boring. So that's this week's FashLife update. What do you think about the Victoria's Secret tour? And did you like it? If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe to support this channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. I had a great time ranting. I had a great time talking about the Victoria's Secret fashion show, or whatever it is. But again, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you next time. I wish you well. You're fabulous. Be yourself. I'm your host, Pelli. And remember to keep living that Fash Life. Bye.